Welcome to the 2020-21 Lake Simcoe ice fishing forecast. Brought to you by Berkeley, help you catch more fish. AquaView, stop guessing and start watching. And Clam Outdoors, making your winter more comfortable. As we head into the new ice fishing season and pinpoint some new waypoints for the winter, the unusually warm weather in November is a reminder that there was record warm temperatures in the Great Lakes this year. This, along with warm temperatures through November, presents its first challenge for the upcoming ice fishing season. Any ice fishing forecast is reliant on ice conditions. For the upcoming winter, both Farmer's Almanac and Environment Canada are pretty well calling for the same thing: below average temperatures, above average snow level. If that's actually going to happen, it's going to have to get cold real soon. The next challenge we have is both good news and bad news. Because of COVID-19, participation levels are way up. The last time we've seen a surge like this was back in the financial crisis in 2009. More people out of work with less disposable income. Ice fishing is a low-cost, entry-level, recreational winter sport. A few tools get you out on the ice and ready for action. Once these newcomers are hooked and back to work, they acquire more equipment to make them more productive and comfortable. Now on to the actual fishing forecast. Perch are still the #1 targeted fish on Lake Simcoe. In recent years, there's been an incredible amount of pressure on jumbo perch. Pressure and an evolving lake and food web have moved some of these bigger fish out of traditional areas. But even with the pressure in traditional areas, early ice perch fishing was very good last year. It certainly becomes tougher to find bigger fish as the season wears on, a lot of traffic on the ice. And of course, a lot of the bigger fish in traditional areas have already been taken. It helps to start your season with aggressive baits like spoons. As the season wears on, slow down and size down. By mid-season, be prepared to do a lot of drilling and moving. The second high target fish is whitefish. For the last few seasons, they've been plentiful and easy to catch. Natural reproduction has been very good, and stocking levels have remained over 100,000 per year, and they're surviving. They can be caught both deep and shallow, but there's a lot of pressure on shallow fish. Given their great table fare, harvest levels are very high. The winter season opens January the 1st and closes March the 15th. On Lake Simcoe, daily limits and possession limits for a sporting license are for 2 fish. It is a 1 fish limit and possession for a conservation license. It might be time to focus on releasing some of these fish. I think it's going to be a little tougher year for whitefish this year. Survival rates for released whitefish are very high. The apex predator for Lake Simcoe is lake trout. These fish have been through some pretty dramatic cycles for the last couple of decades. Natural recruitment was almost non-existent through the 90s, but in 2002-2003, for some reason we had a boom in natural reproduction. Nobody knows why, although water quality was certainly getting better through the past 2 decades. But the cycle of natural reproduction seemed to be short-lived, and by 2006 there was little evidence that there was much going on at all. But it did seem to spike up again sometime around 2010 and then die off again. One indication that there was some natural reproduction going on between 2010 and 2012 is actually the summer catch. Although we haven't seen a lot of smaller fish or even mid-sized fish caught through the winter sessions, the summer was very different. Guides and charters that target lake trout through the summer had a very good year. Just a reminder that catch rates are not a good indication of the total population. But it was good to see so many 10 to 12 pound fish, even if it wasn't a concentrated area.
Fish on. Yep.
For a period after 2010, there was little evidence that stockfish were actually surviving. But last year we started to see some of these 2 or maybe 3-year-old fish in the wintertime. Another good sign. As of 2020, stocking levels will be raised back up from 50,000 to over 100,000. Matt Clayton of Outdoor Junkies Guide Service said his average fish was actually about 10 to 12 pounds. Although he said there was a lot of much larger fish typical of what we see in the wintertime. I think trout fishing is going to be slightly better this year than it has been, and it's been pretty tough. In the last few years, Burbot or ling have become much more popular, mostly because on social media everybody found out how good they are to eat. This delicacy was never a secret in the North Country, but on Lake Simcoe and many other lakes in the south, people consider them a nuisance fish. Typically found deep in the summer months, they come shallow to spawn around late January. On Lake Simcoe, there are no limits to Burbot, but maybe with their increased popularity and high harvest rates, might have to impose some kind of limit. The peak of the spawn is in about mid-January, and they seem to hang around the shallows for about a month. The increased popularity on Simcoe has been for about 3 or 4 years now, so we're going to get a picture on what effect it's having. But I do expect this to be another very good Burbot year. One fish that is growing in population and has been relatively pressure free during the winter is northern pike. There are anglers that target them, but for the most part, perch anglers are catching them as incidental catches. In some areas, they're actually considered a nuisance for perch anglers. They're pretty easy to catch, and for the most part, they're in less than 10 or 12 feet of water. Anglers that want to devote a little time to them, they're excellent table fare, and I expect another great season. Just to recap, I expect perch fishing to be pretty good at first ice. All depends on how much ice we get. Poor deep water ice forces everybody to come fish shallow, and they'll fish for perch. I expect it to be another good year for whitefish, but maybe not as good as it's been for the last 3 years. There's a lot of pressure on these fish. I'm expecting lake trout to be a little bit better this year, particularly if we can get to deeper water. Hopefully we're going to see some of those smaller fish show up this year. Best bite for ling or burbot this year will be in mid-January as they stage for the spawn. Pike fishing can be good all winter, but the best pike fishing will be very early in very shallow water. You might want to consider a hut operator that has huts out early in shallow water. Everybody have a great ice season, catch a lot of fish, and stay safe on and off the ice.